It is Tuesday. It feels like Monday still for some strange reason to me, but I was traveling, so that's why you haven't seen me for a little while. But I'm back, and it's a Let's Go Brandon Tuesday, and I am recalcitrant Kevin, and I'm here with listless
Oh,
David.
you are?
Well, when I saw listless David, I'm like, I got to come up with something. So there we go. I'm recalcitrant. I don't know if I am.
Big word, Kevin.
Well, I almost
didn't use those kind of big words around me.
Well,
I got to
I was
Google.
exposed to a collegiate environment full of BS and long words, and
long words. Word salads. Long words
salads.
Inside of word salads.
They offer word salad training at our
university.
university.
Yeah, word salads topped with long words.
and then, of course, say very
buzz.
little.
With a little bit of buzzword.
Buzzwords, exactly. Well, I think if you stick to the sciences, you can kind of get by in college nowadays. But if you end up with too much woke socialism, then your brain's just being filled with garbage. I'll tell you one thing. This is something that really surprised me. So it was my son. He's started college there, and I got to hear the dean of the school that he's in at his university say something that just shocked me in a good way. He said, we need to promote diversity. And I'm like, okay, here we go. In every way, including in thought. That means that conservatives have a place on this campus too. And we want to hear from them, and we want everyone to engage in respectful dialogue. And it doesn't matter whether you're liberal or conservative. We can only get to the best ideas if everyone is heard from. And then I went up and thanked him afterwards for saying that, because I know that you catch a bunch of crap from the left, probably some of his own faculty.
Most of his own faculty.
Yeah, who don't believe that. But if the guy in charge believes it, I'm pretty pleased with that. And I went up and thanked him, and he said, 20% of our campus identifies as conservative, the students. 20%. He says, we can't have a campus where 20% of the people are even afraid to express their views. And I'm like, I just was totally blown away, because I was totally prepared to hear how, wokeness was what we're going to teach everywhere. And so it was refreshing. Anyway, I thought I'd share that, because that was probably one of the high points of going and visiting where I did. But I also know that the proof's in the pudding. We'll see how it works out, because the problem is that some of these things come into conflict, don't they? It's like there's certain points of view that cancel other points of view, and we see which one wins, right?
Right.
Are you allowed to mention there are two biological sexes according
to my God, Kevin.
Chromosomes? I know.
Whoa, you're going to get us kicked off the internet.
I know. We'll be canceled. Bank accounts closed. Case closed, right? But
yeah.
But I think that I was just glad that there's at least somebody who said it. And he said one other thing to me. He said, and not enough people are saying what I said. I was like,
well, yeah, normally what you'd expect if someone says that, like at Berkeley or UCLA, is what they're really saying is, we need you conservative people, you wrong thinkers, to out yourself so that we can ridicule you and mock you. So please speak up.
Speak up so we can destroy you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We want to give you the bad grades, not the people who agree with us, even if they don't do the work. Yeah, I know. But look, I'm just going to take this as a small sign of something's going on. Maybe some people realize that the pendulum swung too far, because I told him, and he agreed, it's anti-intellectual to cancel a point of view.
Well, politics is anti-science. Politics is anti-intellectual. It's anti-philosophical, really. It is everything it touches. Yeah.
No, that's exactly
politics is really dirty, ugly stuff, and it has no It has no business. I mean, I've been getting a lot of play on Twitter, tens of thousands of views on some of my tweets from talking about the fires, and somebody will pop in and go, you need to change your worldview and stop regurgitating mega talking points. What the hell does that have to do with forest fires? Jeez.
How did MAGA talking points cause forest fires? Of course, you're talking to the people who believe crazy stuff about what does cause forest fires. And we're going to talk tonight about Maui.
Yeah.
We're going to talk tonight about Maui. But before we get too far into the show, I just wanted to say, great show last night.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to do a little plug for this because if folks did not get to see last night, and by the way, I put CK Farach because I think that's what she goes by, but can you say her full name again?
Chelly Farach.
Right. And she
laid out. And it's Algerian, and she told me that Algeria used to be part of France.
Yes, it did.
Not a colony, but part of France. So
yes. Now France is part of Algeria. I don't know if you heard, but
yeah, well, she's an American of African descent. So
yeah, she's an African American, just like Elon Musk. That's right.
She is, and so every Antifa thug that harasses her and threatens her and docks her and does all the other stuff to her is just a filthy racist, obviously.
Well, what she told last night is the still largely untold story when you talk about the national media.
Right.
What happened with Andy Ngo when he was assaulted, not once, but twice. And that the second time he was assaulted turned into a lawsuit where he filed for damages. And it was Harmeet Dillon, our friend Harmeet Dillon. As well as James Buchel, a Republican lawyer from Multnomah County. Yes, there is one. I know others, but he's a prominent one, who filed this lawsuit. They lost, effectively, one of the lawsuits where they sued the people who actually coordinated, planned, and conspired to create this assault.
Right.
But the people that Andy Ngo sued directly for administering the beating on him, in fact, did get hit with it was $100,000 each for $100,000 for each of the three people who assaulted him. And it is definitely a kind of victory, especially that it could occur in Multnomah County. He has said and warned that it is going to be difficult to collect from these boneheads.
Yeah.
Because they probably don't have any assets. They will probably try to declare bankruptcy. If you see the pictures of them, you'll be surprised that they have any assets. If you just look at the Oregon Catalyst article, here, let me see if I can show that, because I think that sometimes pictures.
Yeah, they have no bank accounts. They have no that you can attach. They have no jobs, wages you can attach, and they certainly probably have no assets. So
yeah,
they're down at the bottom of the socioeconomic scale. They're oppressed, Kevin. They're oppressed by normal people who
here we go.
Don't do the crap that they do.
So this is you can see these three people here that have essentially been found, you could say.
You got to put it on the screen here like this. There we go.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, so you can see these three people, probably not a lot of assets. And you can see a picture of Andy Ngo, who was assaulted. I don't think they have a lot of assets, not just monetary, but,
social, intellectual, or moral, or
cognitively. Yeah, certainly not morally. Yeah. And there's this whole debate about whether or not Antifa exists. And you talked about that last night. I think it's an important debate because, at the same time that they're going out and claiming that, President Trump, he colluded and blah, 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 even though he tells the public information about what he said on January 6th and all that stuff is, and the whole thing in Georgia, the RICO charges that have been filed against him, as well as the collusion, and all the stuff that they've ever said about him, which has all turned out to be garbage in the past. And I think all this stuff that's going on right now is just more garbage. But they can't, they seem to find 18 different ways to create garbage charges against President Trump. But no one seems to be able to file charges against the people doing the same exact thing, which I think any RICO prosecution could easily be levied against Antifa. But one of the reasons why some of the case that Andy Ngo filed against Rose City Antifa was thrown out is because they said it doesn't exist. Even though they are actually doing all the things that are racketeering.
They've got email addresses. There's a PO box somewhere. They have social media accounts. I mean, they exist. You know, ideas don't run social media accounts. You know, that like Rose City Antifa.
But I listened to Andy, well, right, and I listened. The money is being used. As soon as money is being used, and it's to collude to commit a crime or crimes, then this is the reason why the RICO statutes. I listened to Andy McCarthy discuss the use of this RICO stuff on Trump, right, in Georgia. And he rejected the idea that this was a legitimate way to go after somebody for objecting to the results of an election. However, why hasn't, after all this time, somebody used RICO statutes to go after Antifa? The RICO statutes were invented to go after the mafia. And the reason why they did this is because if you go after the mafia, before I think it was passed in 71 or 73, the RICO statutes, you had to go and find, like they did with Al Capone, a crime, a specific crime that you had them dead to rights on. And then that's all you could really prosecute them on. And a lot of the people who would be witnesses to this, you had to catch them on other crimes
while they were still alive.
Right. And then get them to turn on the higher ups. And so you, but you couldn't go after them for conspiring together to commit a whole bunch of crimes. That didn't exist. The RICO statutes were developed to go after mafia organizations, and it's been very successful actually over the years when it's been used, and put away a lot of people that used to be very hard to get at because mafia organizations technically didn't exist, right? In fact, if you went after, remember in The Untouchables, and they were talking about Al Capone. Al Capone, they said, remember they had to get the bookkeeper's record book and then figure out what code name and have the bookkeeper not get killed so he could tell everybody what Al Capone's code name in that one book was, in order to tie any of these assets to eventually say that Al Capone had committed tax evasion, which is what they got him on, right? Well, that up until that point, the guy listed zero income. Al Capone did no income, even though millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars back then were flowing through, hundreds of millions actually, through his crime organization in Chicago. He was a rich and powerful guy who apparently had no income and no assets. Well, this sounds very similar to what they're getting away with Antifa, which is that they're using all this money, and it costs money to do the stuff that they do, to commit not just one crime, but a whole bunch of crimes. And you can prosecute them once, and all you have to do is prove that the underlying crimes occurred. That's it.
Right.
And then you could put a whole bunch of people away. Why isn't that happening with Antifa? What we saw in the show that you guys did last night is we can't even get media coverage to cover what they were doing to disrupt a court trial in Multnomah County.
No, there's none that I was aware of. I have to admit, I don't watch local television, but I didn't see any of the. I didn't see anything on Twitter. I didn't see anything on my Google News feed. Anything about that whatsoever.
Well, and what she said, what Chelly said last night was that there was one other reporter from the Oregonian, only there for part of the time of the trial, right, and that when offered the opportunity to be the pool photographer reporter for all reporters present, which included her, the other reporter from the Post Millennial, and the Oregonian reporter, he turned it down because he's like, I don't want to take any pictures of these people. They'll come after me.
Yeah, they will.
Doesn't that sound like the mafia? And I think she said
absolutely,
something
yeah. It's coercion. It's a soft coercion, if you will. Just milling around the court halls, and sitting next to people and sitting behind them and laughing and whispering in their ear and all this kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know.
They brought court proceedings to a stop with their disruption.
Yeah.
And no one goes to jail for any of this, just like they do with the city council. So, this is something that we have to stay after, but it probably could seem, if you're in Multnomah County and Portland, as impossible to do anything about this as it did seem to people to do something about, say, Al Capone. But it does take determined people with the right means at their disposal to do something about it. That's what we have to focus on. And I just wanted to encourage everyone to go watch last night's show, because I think that it was excellent and it was unusual that anyone was telling this story. So we told it last night.
We did, yeah. Yeah, we tell a lot of stuff that never makes the news, don't we?
We do. And it's important because so many people, I think, have given up or felt like the only thing I can do is just leave. And the only thing I can say to that is they will follow you. You said last night that they're in Texas. Of course they are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go to Texas. I'm safe there for now, maybe.
Yeah.
Until they flood the state with undocumented Democrats and people fleeing California who are fleeing the crap they voted for back in Los Angeles and San Francisco. And it follows you there. No, we have to fight it wherever we are. And if you don't fight it, you're going to get a bunch of it. And it's very unfortunate. But I really do think that this is an opportunity to recognize that it exists in our midst. And actually, people have done this before. We didn't invent this. You've seen The Untouchables, right? In the beginning of it, it looks even like for back then the FBI didn't really exist per se, but it was the Treasury Department, right? And they were just trying to catch somebody evading taxes. At least that's the theory they came up with. And it looked like one lone guy wasn't going to do it in a town full of dirty cops who actually killed one of their agents, right?
Right.
The police chief had one of his people offed. Well, it's not going to be easy, but there is an opportunity here. So everybody watch that from last night. I'm trying to find the YouTube link because I know I had it somewhere here. And definitely everyone take the time to go watch it. I'll post it here in the course of the show. Meanwhile, I just wanted to say that there is something else that's happening in our midst that's not getting adequate attention. And it's what's happening in Maui. You notice how, even though it's a unfolding horrific tragedy, I think 2,000 structures destroyed. I think the last count I saw was 133 dead, $6 billion in damage. The town of Lahaina has been erased.
Yeah.
And here's updates for you. This is news they just released before President Brandon showed up for his visit. So on Monday, they announced that in Maui, 850 people are still unaccounted for. 850 people. They don't know where they are.
That's a lot of people.
A lot of people to not. This is 11 days later. If after 11 days you can't find 850 people, I think it's not good news for the 850 people. And we know that they didn't set off the warning sirens. They invented an explanation afterwards. They thought if they did that, then that people would run inland and get killed. But apparently, if 850 people aren't going to show up here soon, then it's possible that they just got burned to ashes. It's going to take a while to find them. And they never woke up. They never even knew when this fire came through. So it's turned into this massive, unbelievable emergency management failure. And everyone needs to know what's happening there, because all of the politicians that are involved with this, like the Maui mayor, You need to watch this short video of him answering questions, and there are people screaming at him. They asked him if he has any idea how many children are missing 11 days after the wildfires. He doesn't know. I don't know.
Isn't that when he said that they can just end the press conference now?
Yeah.
No,
I think it's not on that clip, but he did. Yeah, he did end it. And
somebody asked a hard question, about missing people, and I think if I remember, I just watched it in passing that he said that we can just end this now, which I don't quite understand. I don't understand. I guess I don't understand. I don't understand how human beings can get in front of a microphone and a camera and then deliver gov speak.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it is. It's gov speak. It's like somebody
All they care about is politics. All they care about is politics and avoiding accountability. And this costs lives, big time. And by the way, they also put a mic in front of the FEMA administrator, who's probably more interested in figuring out how to put you and I in a FEMA camp when the time comes, than to make sure that they provide relief to the people of Maui. But one of the reporters at this press conference at the FEMA administrator, they questioned the reports of assistance. They said they go and they talk to the people on the ground in Maui, and we don't see any of this assistance. And yet the FEMA administrator says that a whole bunch of assistance has been sent. And it is an island, and it is an unusual circumstance, but she goes on and starts saying, well, they're experiencing such a traumatic situation. It's more
gov speak, more gov speak.
And that's traceable directly back to President Brandon.
It's not hard to figure out. It's not hard to figure out what people who've just been burned out of their homes and their cities need. I mean, they need food and water, and they need shelter, and maybe medical care. All right, that's not hard to figure out.
Brought to you by the same people who evacuated Kabul, except that they don't even have the competence of some U.S. military there. Apparently, all they've got is these boneheads that are walking around. And one of the boneheads just showed up, President Brandon, it says it's the headline. This is a charitable headline from Just the News. Biden's brief Maui visit marked by residents' anger over perceived inadequate government response. Biden's short trip to the devastated island 13 days after fires tore through many parts of it, marked by outrage.
Right.
And you know what he did? And this is, you can kind of skip through parts of it if you want, but I think it's worth watching. You know who Benny Johnson is, right? Yeah, kind of a humorous guy. I like his style. A bunch of people apparently flipped Biden off and screamed "F you" in his face while he was there, because he didn't say anything for like a week about the whole deal. He just said nothing. And then finally, after it started looking really bad, he decided to go there. And then there are two super duper cringe moments, which you can scroll through this and you can find them when President Brandon
made up a story.
He started mumbling and talking about how lightning struck near his house in Delaware once, and he got very scared. In order to calm the people in Maui, who obviously don't give a flying crap about what happened to his house or the lightning that struck near it.
He almost had a tragedy.
He almost had a tragedy. Which
he knows how they feel, Kevin, because it almost happened to him.
Yes.
Fortunately, the fire in the kitchen, the fire department put out in 20 minutes, and the cat was okay, and the 67 Corvette was all right. And his wife was okay too. She may have been in the kitchen, who knows? But yeah, how tone deaf, how insensitive can you be? I mean, I'm not sure what you can really say.
There is something else. There's a super cringe. He called it a nuclear cringe. Biden walks over. He's talking to one of the people that I guess has a dog that searches for people that might be buried in the rubble. At this point, it's mostly going to be their cadaver dogs, is what they are. And he's talking to the guy, and he's petting the dog, and he says something about, yeah, the ground is hot. That's hot ground down there. And this is what people. He went there to comfort them. I mean, why does it?
Hey, man, did all the ice cream places burn down? Because, damn, it's hot and I could use some ice cream. I'll buy you an ice cream. Well,
yeah, we'll send everybody in Maui an ice cream.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is what folks.
Well, they're all Democrats there, so maybe they're.
And that's just it.
Well,
there's two places that Joe Biden won't go. A place where nobody voted for him, like East Palestine, Ohio, which still is a disaster area. Yeah. Or to a place where he knows he's going to get their votes no matter what he does, which is what he figures about Hawaii. I don't know. I think there is a point where you can really screw things up badly enough, but I just wanted to point. I think this is Biden's Katrina moment, and I think the important thing to look at is how the media behaves, because even the Katrina situation was exaggerated by the media. A lot of the blame actually should have and did fall on the governor of Louisiana, who was the only one with the actual power to send in National Guard and stuff like that. If you recall, I mean, you probably remember that whole situation with Bush. But they tagged Bush with it, saying he's the one who screwed everything up. He did make some PR mistakes, like just flying over instead of going down, all that stuff. This is Biden's Katrina moment. He's making it worse by going there. and they're still finding bodies. Like, this is still a search and rescue or search and recover situation. And where's the media turning this into Biden's Katrina moment?
Well, they're in his back pocket and the back pocket of the DNC. So I don't think anything will come of it because the media won't cover it. The media won't paint it that way. The media will do everything possible because we're almost certain to have a Trump Democrat matchup. Not sure if it's going to be Joe or not, but they can't have that. So everything will be a pass from here on out.
That's just it. He gets a pass until they finally decide he's not going to work out, and then they'll do something. They'll send him on his way. By the way, let me post. I have the video of where you can see where the wildfire started, and the reason why this is important is because the guy who posted the video shows a power line going down prior to when the fire had actually showed up and gone anywhere. And you actually see, after the power line goes down because of high winds, it lights a bunch of grass on fire. And then you see these guys pointlessly trying to spray water on the down power line, which, by the way, I don't recommend doing. A live power line doesn't work well with water. However, they're trying to put out a grass fire, which quickly spreads. And the video shows how the area gets engulfed in flame in a matter of minutes. The reason why this is important, actually, is because along with almost not giving a crap about the people of Maui, apparently the interim governor of Hawaii, and I don't know what happened to the idiot that used to be there, Ige or EJ or whatever, the one who was there when the North Korea false nuclear attack alarm.
Oh, yeah.
There's always no way you're going to get a warning if they screw up and accidentally send you a warning, because when you really need warning sirens to go off, they're not going to go off, apparently, in Hawaii. But this guy is blaming, he has said, climate change has amplified the cost of human error. I know.
Well, never miss. Yeah. Well, I think we may have talked about this on our show, but I mean, that's and until COVID comes back in October or September, whenever they bring it back, that's all we're hearing about is climate change. So, some of the graphics I saw a tweet of somebody, they did a graphic of the heat dome that's over, kind of looks like it's centered over Texas. And the colors are just, they go from red to orange to purple, like everybody is dying and underneath this heat dome.
Also known as summer.
Yeah. August. Yeah. August. Always been the hottest month, as far as I can remember, even before climate change.
Pretty dry. By the way, they didn't invent dry grass in Maui just recently. That's not an invention of intensifying climate change. Because when I went to go and look for the video showing what was going on in Maui right after, because I saw a news flash that evening saying, Lahaina on fire, maybe destroyed, and I'm like, what? This is like crazy. So I went and I did a Google search, and I started watching a video, and I'm like, this is just a few houses in the on the mountainsides caught on fire. And then I looked, and it said that was a wildfire from 2018, August of 2018. So it's like, gee, I wonder if wildfires happen in Maui. Yes, because I accidentally watched a video from 5 years ago showing the exact same thing. What they weren't is they weren't ready for any of this. They didn't have any of the right procedures in place. They didn't have any emergency management in place. And I just want to mention that there's another reason to care about emergency management, which is that they've just, Tina Kotek here in Oregon has actually appointed a new emergency manager for the state.
Thank God.
Yeah, that's just what we need is Tina Kotek's emergency manager. And if you thought it, so what, it doesn't matter. Let's find out a little bit more about Erin McMahon. I've heard on good authority that she's actually quite a political operator. And she used to, until recently, she worked and by the way, she needs to be confirmed by the state Senate when it meets in September. I don't know what body, if that's just the e-board or whatever. But she worked for, I believe it's McChrystal Associates. That name rings a bell, doesn't it?
No, not to me.
Well, I believe it's the former General McChrystal, who used to be in Afghanistan, who was so bad that he actually got fired by Obama. Because he was making a mess of things in Afghanistan, and it was taking forever for them to do all the things that they thought they were going to do. So if you're so bad that you had to get fired by Obama for incompetence as a general, you know what you do? You go start a think tank and you hire people like this person, and then you pawn them off on unsuspecting blue states who want somebody that probably won't do much about emergency management.
Kind of like Pat Allen in New Mexico.
Yeah, that's right. What fool didn't actually do anything?
All you have to do is use Google. HR, if they just Googled him, go, I don't know, maybe he's not the best candidate. Well, whatever it is, we got to make sure he's got a single-story home, because he likes to drink and fall down the stairs.
Yeah, that's right. And then the media will try to cover it up, but they couldn't in that case successfully before it got into the blogosphere. So anyway, emergency management, competence of government people. I mean, I say have your own plan and be ready. Don't count on.
Yeah, well, I certainly have my own plan. When it comes to all things. So, we're dealing with a whole crap load of fires down here.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I've been trying to follow it.
The whole state is just, not the whole state, but the whole area down here. There's like 27 fires now, or 30 fires, and they're kind of, if you take the California-Oregon border, they're just all down like this. A couple of them have crossed over into Oregon, and you can't. It's hard to rely on government information. And so down here.
Those are kind of moronic terms, actually. Government information.
Yeah. So we keep an eye on everything. So we just we listen to the ODF scanner. ODF, I have to hand it to them. The Oregon Department of Forestry. When a fire occurs in their jurisdiction, they get on it. They get on it hard, and they put them out. We saw that a few years ago with the larger Milepost 99 fire, which was managed and fought by ODF and hit hard and kept fairly small down around Canyonville. But when I hate, well, I don't know if I hate to say it, but you get the Forest Service or the BLM or the feds involved for some reason, Kevin, they get huge. So the fire that is close to us that is giving this the choking smoke, it's about it's probably 7 miles, 8 miles down the road from us right now.
Cape Junction, that area.
Yeah. It reared its ugly head Wednesday after a thunderstorms rolled through Monday night, Tuesday morning. It takes a while for the fires to get going, so you can see that there's fires. But it was first reported. It was found to be about 1,000 acres. These combined, and that was 7 days ago. It's 40,000 now. From 1,000 to 40,000 acres in 7 days. Yes.
Isn't about 60% of our state and in an even higher percentage, relatively speaking, of rural areas owned by the federal government?
Yes. Yeah. In Josephine County, where I live, I think it's close to 70 is owned by either the feds or the state. It's non-taxable. And that's the whole issue with these fires is, all of the agencies are sued by Oregon Wild, KS Wild, Cascadia Wildlands, blah, 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 Keeper, Forest Defenders. There's just a web of these NGOs that do nothing. They don't go out in the forest and clean it up or anything like that. They just do nothing but file lawsuits. You can search Justia and just search environmental lawsuits Oregon, and all these names pop up, and that's all they do. So they sue to stop all this stuff, even when there's a fire like the Slater fire, which was the big fire down here in 2020, left a bunch of hazard trees, and the feds went in and cleared out the hazard trees. They sued and stopped that because they didn't want them salvaging, So you got all that. So now nothing happens in the forest. Logging is pretty much over. And the forests are just full of fuel. They're full of trees. They're full of fuel. One forester said that many of the forests should have historically have had somewhere around 100 trees an acre. Now they have 400 trees an acre. And that creates drought. If you have a X amount of rain,
tree competition.
Yes, all of the competition. And then that competition for water produces disease. And the disease kills them, the bugs, because they don't have enough water to expel the bugs. And then you have these dry trees. But the end result is they're just full of fuel. All you have to do is
talk about science, David. Science. Come on, quit talking about science. Politics.
Well, yeah, all the trolls on Twitter say that I'm full of shit. It's all climate change. There's this one guy who was a firefighter, became a professor or scientist, I don't know, something, but he did this study, and this one study, the OPB reported on, is the one they all hold up that says logging doesn't prevent forest fires, and so I looked at the study, I looked at the methodology, and what does the guy use for his study? What method? Modeling, not empirical data, like the 224 fire in Estacada that was on reforested land with open roads and was contained at 40 acres within a matter of days, but modeling, so.
Yeah, because we don't have enough forest fires, apparently, to use empirical data.
Yeah. Well, Lars had a guy on who's a professor or something of forestry, whatever it is. And he said, and my research says the same thing, is we had very, very few large fires from 1902 to 2002. I counted depending on how you classify them, maybe 8 or 10. And since 2002 to 2022, 2 years ago, we've had nearly 40 mega fires. So that's a little bit of data. And then, of course, they say climate change. It's all climate change. It's drier and hotter. Well, bullshit. We had a little bit more than normal rainfall last year. And in 2018, we had double the rainfall We had double the rainfall in the rain year, and we had 200,000 acres burn up.
See, here's the problem. If they put out the fires and manage the forests correctly, then climate change won't look like it's as true, and they won't be able to get as much money and impose as many restrictions on us and make us switch to unreliable electrical sources. And so the problem is that it destroys the narrative, and that's way more important than, maybe that your house doesn't burn up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's all about the narrative, and it's all, and people believe. Here's the problem: people believe the narrative, right? I mean, the normal, average, maybe even not non-political person that I run into will say that, well, it's gotten a lot hotter and drier. Maybe that's why we're having forest fires. Where do they get that information? They get it from media. They don't know. They're not, they don't hate Trump. Maybe, they just. They hear it and they go, wow, yeah, so I guess it's a lot hotter and drier. And I'm going, no, it's not hotter and it's not drier. I mean, sometimes it's dry, sometimes it's not. But, regardless, the climate, I'm not a climate change denier. I believe the climate has always changed, is changing, and will always change. I might be wrong on that. But when climate changes, shouldn't our forest management change with it? If we have 400 trees per acre, when we should only have 100, shouldn't we go out and cut 300 of them down and use the tax money that comes from those and to fund our schools and our fire departments and our county roads and our sheriff department? Shouldn't we do that? Because that's what we used to do, and it worked really well.
Yeah, why would we want to do something that worked really well when we can have the narrative we want? I mean, that's really what it comes down to. And I think that's why we do this show, is we don't just tell you what's going on. You can read that someplace, but there is a context and a meaning. And a lot of the time, the headlines are intended to impart some sort of meaning, right? It's there to just make you believe something, even though there's like a ton of reasons not to believe it. And in fact, to just use your mind and think skeptically about why someone might intentionally be putting forward all this garbage all the time. Yeah. And I like some of the comments we've had here. By the way, what is GP, Pat? It says air quality is 237 in GP.
Grants Pass.
Grants Pass. Got it. Well, that's really bad.
I live in CJ, and those other people live in the big city, GP.
GP. Well, it's and I see let's see. It only takes one tree hugger to sue to stop logging. Usually goes nowhere, but ties up operations for years sometimes.
And that's exactly what they do. 300 of 400 sawmills have closed in the last couple decades. So 3/4 of them. OPB actually reported this, so it's true.
Yeah.
And when they interview,
because they were celebrating, actually.
When they interview the mill operators, all the mill operators say the same thing. They're closing the mill because they can't get any logs, and the reason they can't get any logs, they go on to say, is that all of the timber, not all, but most of the timber sales, particularly the larger ones, are being held up in court, and that's why they're all going down the tubes. It's not rocket science,
And I will say that I would have liked to have seen during the Trump administration more progress made on this. But, there's a deep state in just about every agency. And that one is the Bureau of Land Management. Ironic, or not so ironic, actually, that BLM is the acronym for the Bureau of Land Management, because they're about as useful as Black Lives Matter or Buying Lovely Mansions, where $90 million disappeared, except that there's more zeros on the end of it, right? With the Bureau of Land Management, and certainly more fire damage. Now, one of the reasons why they want this narrative is so they can do things like what the Brandon administration is planning to do, which is they plan to go and take away your appliances. They've been working on gas stoves. They've been working on furnaces and water heaters. Water heaters are kind of next on their list. But after that, they're going to go after Dishwashers.
Dishwashers, yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, you got to get rid of them freaking dishwashers. That's just that's too what's the term bourgeois?
Bourgeois, that's right.
Yeah, too
That's just
bougie.
white privilege. It's just white
Yeah,
privilege, actually. And
yeah.
that's the only way we can fix this is by making life as much of an inconvenient hell as possible. I mean, and if you thought they were going to stop with light bulbs, they're way past that now, and they plan to do it without asking Congress to do
They're
any of
gonna
it.
get rid of your freaking cars.
Yeah, well, we know that. And by the way, I do want to mention, I don't want to delve too deep in this, but the electric car biz, there's maybe one capable company, Tesla, who's been successful in doing this. And of course, now the left hates Tesla, or at least they hate Elon Musk, right? Because he dared to speak his mind. However, here's something fascinating. I'll just post these two stories. Somebody went and bought a Ford F-150 Lightning.
Oh, I read that story.
Yeah. And so a guy in Canada gets this. He decides to go on a road trip, and it's this nightmarish experience, a 1,400-mile road trip that led him to believe, after spending $85,000 to purchase this thing, that it is the biggest scam of modern times. And if you think that's just like one story by a guy who might have had a bias in the beginning, well, it was his $85,000 he spent on it.
Yeah.
He thought it would be kind of neat, except he just couldn't find any place to charge it. There were other than some of the Tesla charging stations along the way, pretty much he would go to these places, and it was a 50% to 75% of the charging stations were not functioning. And those are the ones he could find. And he was literally running out of juice. He only had like about 20 miles left or something of juice, which there's an air margin on that doesn't work to your favor, by the way, especially when you're driving a truck and if the weather isn't exactly ideal.
Yeah, if it's hot.
Yeah.
Which it is in August.
Exactly. Last time I checked, that's called summer. And some people actually know that's caused by things that we don't control.
It's caused by the sun.
Yeah, I'm going with the sun on this. I heard actually a fascinating story. I don't have the story handy to post, but they were looking at the clouds on the planet Uranus, which gets 1/900th of the sunlight the Earth does, and they figured out something. Scientists figured out that when sunspot activity increases, cloud cover on Uranus increases.
So it gets even colder?
No, it means that solar variations tied to sunspots, which means greater solar activity, can actually affect a planet that's so far away that it gets only 1/900th of the solar radiation that we do. Right. So, do you think that weather on Earth might be influenced by variations in solar activity? Is there a chance of that when we get 900 times what Uranus gets?
I'm pretty sure of it. Because I've noticed that when I go out and the sun is on the other side of the Earth, it's colder. And when I go outside and the sun is on this side of the Earth, it's warmer.
It's warmer. Yeah. And I also know that 500 years ago, it was actually significantly colder here. And 2,000 years ago, it was significantly warmer. And I don't think anyone was driving SUVs. There were no natural gas electrical generation facilities or
no dishwashers,
none of that stuff. And so I just know that nature has its way of doing things, but the narrative is not that. But anyway, to continue this Ford story, we've gone way off of our agenda tonight. I hope this has been interesting. We're covering, there's so much stuff. The Ford CEO took a sort of undercover road trip in the same vehicle that this guy from Canada did, the Ford F-150 Lightning. He took a short road trip from Palo Alto, California to Las Vegas, Nevada, to assess the experiences customers were having with the product. His assessment was, to put it mildly, refreshingly honest. He said the experience was, quote, challenging and a reality check. Um, he went on, he said, charging has
We're
been
really screwing these people over who buy these things.
I know. Well, you got to hand it to the CEO that he actually went out and ate his own dog food, and
Yeah.
he could find, because he said the best experience he had was at Tesla charging stations, which are
Somewhat
well
ubiquitous.
capable. Yeah, they get like 450 volt charging stations. They're plentiful. They only take like 20 minutes, a half an hour to recharge a vehicle. But he wasn't able to find one in one case. He found a lower speed charging station. He had to wait 40 minutes for the charger, and all it did is charge his vehicle to 40%.
Well,
And
all Ford has to do, Kevin, to fix this is it's a pickup truck, right? You just throw a generator in the back.
yeah, there you go. Actually, you can put a windmill up there too, and it would generate as you drive down the road. And then you get it whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Well, and actually in this article, the guy admits, the CEO admits that maybe the transition to electric vehicles is not being handled properly, and that the grid is actually not ready.
You think?
I think, yeah.
Meanwhile, cities like Portland and all along the West Coast are phasing out internal combustion engines by 2030. Isn't that what it is? Yeah.
They're just mandating
7 years from now.
That's right. So, I think we got to watch what happens here, especially when somebody as corrupt as the Brandon administration, for whom Bidenomics, I heard, and this is clever, is only working for one family in the United States. And that's Joe Biden and his crime family.
Syndicate?
Well, so here's the latest, and maybe this is mention this story before we wrap up. There is a story that just came out today, which I think doesn't actually portend very good news for Mr. Biden, which is that a guy named Tom Steyer. You remember Tom Steyer? He's a billionaire, right? And he invests and he's a big advocate for green energy and climate change and so on.
He's a commie.
Yeah. It turns out, well, he actually ran for president and then dropped out so that President Brandon could be their nominee. But here's what is fascinating. The guy actually was, he is being investigated now by officials because apparently he owns Joe Biden's vacation home.
In Tahoe? One in Tahoe?
I believe it's the one in Tahoe. I'm looking for the story here. I thought I had it handy.
Anyone surprised about that?
Well, so this is really interesting because the more you dig into what's actually fueling Joe Biden, the more you find that it's a lot of people throwing money in his pocket. And I just want to point out that someone has an inauspicious past. A certain former Oregon governor had a girlfriend, the first girlfriend, who also was being paid by the very same individual, Tom Steyer.
Yeah.
And of course, as we know, John Kitzhaber resigned in disgrace from the Oregon governorship. I wonder if that's in Joe Biden's future.
Yeah, well, one of the founding members of our show, Captive Audience, Jeff Reynolds, wrote a book about that whole web of money. But yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that he's vacationing in homes of wealthy donors. But the one thing I want to know is, does it have a dishwasher, and is there natural gas?
Yeah, or is it like the governor's mansion in Oregon, a natural gas backup generator? Just in case things don't work with that power grid that you're loading all this crap onto.
Yeah. Well, see, Ford should take a cue from that. Should put a nat gas backup generator in the back of their electric
Why not?
Of course, problem with that is you can't find natural gas on the road either. So I don't know. Maybe just pull out the motors and put a V8 in there.
That is kind of cutting to the chase right there. Is if you just rip out all the garbage and stick in the right thing, you know what we could do is just not do any of this stuff in the first place, and just drive vehicles that actually work.
Well, how about the government just get the hell out of everybody's business, get rid of all the damn regulations on the cars and all the nudges and all the policy shifts and all the changes, and let the car manufacturers produce cars that people want to buy, because that's what happens in a free capitalist market.
That's exactly it. I just found the story, by the way. That Biden's billionaire friend and former Democratic candidate for president could find a property if his face a fine if his property doesn't have the proper permit. So, in other words, he got caught sort of breaking the rules here. Yep, it's Lake Tahoe. It's an $18 million Lake Tahoe mansion that Joe Biden has been renting for his vacation. And these guys
really?
Yep. And
how much does that rent? How much does that rent for?
It doesn't say here, but it does say that Steyer faces $20,000 in civil fines. Which, you know what, he probably doesn't give a crap. He's a billionaire. It's like, 20 grand. I'm doing a favor for the president, right?
Yeah, cost of doing business.
Hey, last thing I wanted to mention. So tomorrow night is the GOP presidential primary debate. Kind of turned into an undercard debate. What are your thoughts on this? Are you going to watch it?
No, I won't watch it, but I'll be looking for the clips of Ramaswamy. Because
Ramaswamy.
Yeah, because he's a very eloquent speaker.
He is.
And I don't believe a thing that any candidate says on the campaign trail. Yeah, anything. I don't believe in anything they say. It's all bullshit as far as I'm concerned. But I do like to hear good speakers who are quick on their feet, deliver words nicely.
Yeah, one of the folks, Larry Elder, who's actually pretty articulate, is suing because he said he qualified for the debate and they won't let him in.
Right.
And apparently, Ronna McDaniel, the RNC chair, said something to the effect of that she still thinks President Trump's going to attend. But I understand that's a done deal. He's not only not going to attend, but isn't he doing an interview with Tucker Carlson while the debate's going on? Something like that. I mean, I think I heard
that's what I heard. Yeah, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd do it. If I had billions, at least more than $1 billion in 99% name ID, I would certainly do it because, you could do that. You could do that with any national network, right? I mean, Trump is money. I don't care if you like him or not. He's just money. If he's on your debate, you're going to get viewers. That's money. If he's on your TV show, you're going to get viewers. That's money. So he knows he has that kind of leverage, and I think it's funny. I don't even. What network is the debate on?
It's on Fox News, actually.
Oh, Fox News. Okay.
Yep, and it's going to be streamed on Rumble.
Yeah, I may or may not get it. I don't get any local channels out here, but I may get it on one of my streaming things.
I think it's streaming on Rumble. They're a partner in this too. So I mean,
really?
There's good media outlets set up to get it out there, and so I mean, who cares? I don't think the Democrats are going to watch it anyway.
Are you saying, Lori? Are you saying that is Carlson interviewing Trump?
Tucker Carlson
is interviewing Trump.
Yes.
Oh, that I'll watch.
Yeah, I was going to say that actually is the kind of thing that really gets people to tune in, and it's utterly clever, really. So, and I figure we'll hear. It's more interesting to hear what the media tries to say about a debate usually, to figure out what's going on than to actually watch the debate.
Yeah.
It's kind of long and I mean, when Trump was in there, it was kind of fun because something was going to happen, right?
Yeah, well, Trump was a fun president. He was particularly mean to media, which I enjoyed.
Yeah,
and he was mean on Twitter, which I particularly enjoyed. And he was fun to watch in the debates. Although I will say the last 2020 debate, he wasn't on his game.
Yeah.
I think he probably listened to people saying that, you need to do this or you need to do that to win. And I've never. Well, I guess I did win. I did win election once, but I mean, I'm not a politician who has a great record of stepping up the ladder, climbing the political ladder. But I think you do need to be yourself, and I think you need to go. You need to be yourself, and you need to, go with your strong suits and go with your gut.
I bet that he kind of wishes that he had let it rip a little bit more on Biden. But he only got 2 debates. There's supposed to be 3, and geez, with the third debate was supposed to be focused on national security and foreign policy. I guess we had to. It was like Nancy Pelosi said about Obamacare, right? We have to vote for the bill to see what's in it. Well, everybody got to vote for Biden. That said they did, whoever that was. And now we find out what his foreign policy is, and it's horrific. It's just awful. There's wars everywhere.
Yeah, wars everywhere, and lots of money leaving the United States and probably making its way back laundered to certain people in Washington D.C. I'm fairly certain that's the big scam, is foreign aid.
That and the southern border and what the cartels are making off of this. I'm just waiting to find out how that money is being rerouted to certain individuals that have made this national security possible.
Yeah, they make more money than most governments. I mean, suitcases full of cash, or trucks full of suitcases full of cash, I'm sure, are making its way to certain people who can influence policy that is in their best interest, like we've seen in Oregon, with Measure 110, with the sanctuary law, with the other laws that make it easier to traffic underage girls, and somebody's getting paid off, because it's never, and this is my quote, double negative, it's never not always about the money.
Yeah, that's right. An intentional double negative. And David, somebody has to call the fentanyl sourced from Chinese chemicals into the United States. It's a dirty job, but someone has to do it. And we wouldn't want the border to get in their way, because that would make it slow down, and we wouldn't then be able to enjoy $1 or even 80-cent fentanyl in Portland, like the city's really thriving off of right now.
You gotta watch out. You gotta watch after those people. I mean, if they don't have fentanyl, what the hell are they going to do all day? Work?
I know. That's right. You see them like unable to walk. It's like a paralysis.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. I had a conversation with somebody about that on Twitter. I said, back in the old days, people would sit down and shoot up heroin before they nodded off. Now people are nodding off standing up. I don't get it. It's weird.
They just stand in the middle of the street.
Yeah,
it's like they just stand there like, oh, I'm in the street, whatever. The traffic, I don't know. No, you're right. By the way, I just found a YouTube link. So if people want to share this more widely, yesterday's show, please do that. It was a great show. It's an important story, and more people need to hear it. I'm recalcitrant Kevin. I'm here with Listless David. And we are happy to watch the captive audience tonight. Thank you for being on here with me, David. And
thank you, Kevin. Glad you're back.
On Friday, I guess, with Sunny. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yep. So, and tomorrow night is Sunny Danforth and Don Anderson. So glad I'm back in Oregon, and it's been a great show. Thanks everyone for watching, and please share the show with everyone that you possibly can. Have a great night.
Good night.